Good evening and welcome to Unchained, our Unchained series here as we explore hope and healing from addiction. We are so thrilled that you have joined us again this evening. Each night we are learning practical ways that we can break through the chains that hold us back from living our best life possible. My name is Jonathan Michael. I have the privilege of being your host here on the campus of Mount Pisgah Academy, where I serve as pastor here in Candler, North Carolina. Tonight I'm thrilled to have with us here Clay Plemmons, that has become a friend of mine over these last few years, and I can't wait for you to hear his story this evening as well. Tonight, if you are joining us on Facebook, again, we are glad that you're here, as well as on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. If you've not yet registered, I want to give you a chance to register at relevantseminars.org/Candler, relevantseminars.org/Candler. For those who are registered, we are doing a drawing each evening, and so far we've had a winner from here in Candler and one from nearby in Arden, as well as one winner from Asheville. And that is all for Richie Halversen, our speaker for this series. His book, Darkness Will Not Overcome. His personal testimony going a little deeper than what we heard on nights 1 and 2, as well as exploring more deeply the principles that we've been learning. Go a little deeper in those principles through his book. So don't miss that opportunity if you've not yet registered. If you've already registered, you're already in there for the drawing. But if you have not, take this opportunity at relevantseminars.org/Candler. We're also seeking to build a sense of online community and give you a chance to interact by posting in the comment sections, either there on Facebook or there on YouTube. And kind of for an icebreaker here today, do you have a personal hero? Someone in your life, whether living today or maybe someone from history, that just inspires you and leads you to want to be a better person? For me, I grew up in the Methodist Church, and even after going into seminary at the Seventh-day Adventist Seminary in Michigan, I was able to take a class, even there, on John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist movement, one of my personal heroes. It is said by some historians that his work in England, in discipling people, introducing them to Jesus Christ, is very well what may have saved England from going through the bloody revolution that France went through in the French Revolution. And both of those in the 1700s, his ministry, and then England not quite going through what France did. So I love his testimony and his ministry and work. He also organized small groups, and one of those small groups that he organized was called Penitent Bands, for those struggling with addictions and other chains in their lives. So here, 300 and some years ago, John Wesley knew about these chains and how we can help one another experience that in the Lord. So I invite you, if you have a personal hero in your life, whether someone from history or even someone today, write that in the comment section there. If you have questions that you think of through our series tonight, whether through the personal testimony with Clay Plemmons here or through the message from Richie Halversen, jot those questions down in the comment section as well, and even interact with what you're hearing. If a point is striking you, you can repeat that and comment that as well to make sure others have caught it. Again tonight, so thrilled to have Clay, you with us here. We've been talking about becoming unchained, that there's chains in our life that we long to be free from. And you've had a chain in your life. And what was that chain that you're now unchained from, but there was a time when you weren't?
That would have been my love of cigarette smoking.
Cigarette smoking.
And I had no desire to quit.
So you were smoking and just planning on to keep on smoking?
Had no reason to quit, no desire to quit.
And you smoked for how long? How many years?
I probably started in my early teens and smoked until around I was age of 30.
Okay, so we're talking, I think 17 years, somewhere around there maybe, that
at least that, yeah.
You were smoking and not even the slightest desire to quit.
It was a different time then, too. Society hadn't made that transition from smokers to non-smokers. It was still kind of rotating around. When I started smoking, it was common to go to a restaurant and to eat dinner and then to sit and smoke a cigarette before you went home. That was just one of the things. All the tables had ashtrays. All the hospitals didn't have smoking areas. You just smoked wherever.
Very different time.
And a lot of the people don't understand what that was like. They don't remember back to that, but it was a different time.
Wow, that's amazing. So if I understand, you've been like how many years free now, though, of not smoking?
Well, over 30 years.
So over 30 years, 17 never desiring, even wanting to quit, and now 30 years not having done it. So somewhere in there is a transition to,
Right.
how did that transition come about?
Well, it was kind of ironic. Of course, now I see it was fate. And I'd like to start out by saying, thank you, Lord, for showing me what I wasn't willing to look at myself and be honest. But I was actually had a friend who was an optometrist, his name's Paul, who was always trying to quit and was never successful at it.
Someone that wanted to. You had no desire to, but this person wanted to.
He wanted to quit, wanted to give them up, and never would. And we also had a mutual friend who was an ophthalmologist. And one day when I was doing a remodel job for him, we were talking about Paul, and he said, Paul's going to quit smoking. I said, Paul's not going to quit smoking. I said, he's tried to quit 10 times. I said, he'll quit for maybe a half a day, and then he'll sneak out and buy some or borrow some or something. He's just not going to quit.
It's not very hopeful.
He tried so hard. He wanted to so bad, but he couldn't. He just could not quit smoking. And my friend said, well, he's going to quit this time. And I said, how do you know that? And he said, because he's got the patch. And I said, what do you mean? What's the patch? This was when it first came out.
Okay.
And he said, it's a nicotine-laced patch that you put on your skin, and it slowly gives you nicotine so that you don't crave cigarettes until you break the habit. Oh. Craziest thing I thought I'd ever heard in my life.
Didn't make a bit of sense at that time.
Never heard of something that you could just go through your skin. That was something brand new. And I said, well, unless the patch is about this big, he ain't going to quit. And of course he laughed and I laughed and we had a joke. And he said, well, why don't you quit? I said, I got no desire to quit. I like cigarettes.
Wow.
It's my right to smoke, and I'm going to smoke, and that's just it. And he said, is that the only reason? I said, that, and I ain't going to go to a doctor's office and spend $100 just to get a prescription.
Ah.
And he went, that's the only thing holding you back? And I said, well, yeah, that's one of the things. So he just reached in his pocket, pulled out his prescription pad.
He was a doctor.
Yes. And he wrote me a prescription.
Okay.
And he peeled it off and he said, here.
That was easy.
And I said, what's that? And he said, it's a prescription to the patch if you ever decide you want to quit smoking. Well, I didn't want to be rude and say, I'm not taking your...
Because you still don't want to stop.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop. And I said, well, thank you. And I just kind of folded up, stuck it in my pocket, and we went on. And that was pretty much the end of that conversation with me and him as far as the smoking was concerned.
Okay.
But it wasn't the end of the conversation with me and that little piece of paper.
Oh, okay. So you've got the prescription.
Got the prescription, put it in the work truck, had it in the truck, and we finished up the job. I got paid, had a little money in the pocket, was on my way home through Candler and stopped at what now is the Mercedes-Benz used car dealership. Used to be a pharmacy.
Okay.
And I can't remember the name of it. I was thinking it was Mittens, but I might be wrong. And I pulled into the feed and seed store there to get something, and I thought, I ought to stop and get that prescription before I lose that piece of paper.
Easy to do.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to lose it. I just know I'm going to lose it. So I pulled in park. I went down to the pharmacy, walked in. I knew the lady that owned the place and worked there, or she didn't own it, she worked there. And I walked in and I laid the prescription down, and she said, oh, are you going to quit smoking? And I said, oh, no.
Still not wanting to stop.
I have no desire to quit smoking. I just want to get this turned in before I lose it, because I didn't want to lose the paper. And she said, oh, okay. So she said, well, you want me to go ahead and fulfill it? And I said, well, yeah, I guess. I had money in my pocket. I thought, yeah, this would be a good time to do it. Not realizing the fact that when she came back and she set it down and she rung it up, she said, that'll be $50+. And I lost my breath.
Ooh.
We're talking 30 years ago, $50 was like $500 today.
Ooh, big difference.
And it was like, oh okay.
So that did that. You just walked away.
No, I was paralyzed. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't walk away. I was too embarrassed and proud of myself to say, I've made a mistake. So I reached in my wallet, and I pulled the money out, and I said, okay, here you go.
This is
and
gonna
I gave
hurt.
it to her, and she gave me the box of the patches. It was a whole box of them. And I thanked her, and she said, good luck with that. And I went, whatever.
Still not wanting to quit.
It was killing me. I'm telling you, it was killing me. I was just like, man, this has turned out to be the worst thing that ever happened.
Hard-earned money you just turned over for something you didn't really totally want.
Oh, no. I had no desire to quit. Now I've already spent $50 on something I'll never use. This is insane, I thought. I took it home, walked into the bathroom, opened the medicine chest, stuck the box in the medicine chest, shut it. That's it. For the next week, every morning, get up, go in and open the medicine chest to get the toothbrush or something. There that box was staring me right in the face, reminding you of what an embarrassing moment that was and how I'd gotten myself into such a terrible situation.
And the money that's gone.
It's gone, and there they sit. Never to be used, just sitting there.
Oh, that hurts.
All week long, it just ground on me and ground on me and ground on me. Come around to the next Sunday evening, I walked in the bathroom, looked, and I was like, you know what? Tomorrow morning, I'm going to put one of those on. If I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to use them, lose them, something. I'm just not going to leave them.
Finally got to you.
I'm not going to put up. I put up with it all week long, and it was just more than I wanted to deal with. Monday morning, I got up, took a shower, opened the patch up, put it on my arm, and off to work I went. And the patch worked so well to do away with my craving for a cigarette that I didn't even realize that I'd left my cigarettes at home when I went to work.
That's big.
I got to work, I started working and looked around, it's about 10 o'clock, and I went, I forgot my cigarettes.
Ooh, and this is 17 years of using. So.
Yeah, every day, at least a pack.
At least a pack a day, okay,
yeah,
wow.
And the morning was always, I bet I smoked 5, 6 in the morning just to get started. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, it's 10 o'clock. Well, I'm not going to quit work. I'm still going to stay here today, so I got to get this done. So I just went on back to work and just kept working. And never really thought no more anything about it for the rest of the day.
Wow.
Went home that night, took my shower, went to bed, left the patch on, and had these wild, crazy, vivid dreams. I mean, very realistic dreams. I mean, they were upsetting kind of nightmares, some people would call them.
Wow.
And I woke up the next morning and I took the patch off and I said, wow, man, I can't deal with that. So I went ahead, got dressed, put a new fresh patch on, and away I went to work. Sometime during the day, I'd called the doctor friend of ours that had prescribed the patch. And I told him, I said, these things are giving me wild, crazy dreams during the night. And he said, well, you're not wearing them during the night, are you? And I said, well, yeah, I guess. Aren't I supposed to? And he said, you don't smoke at night. Why would you wear the patch at night?
Oh, no.
I thought,
okay.
Didn't think of that.
New thing learned, okay.
Okay, so we'd take the patch off at night. So that night, went home, took the patch off when I went to bed, went to sleep, didn't think nothing more about it. Next day, same thing. Went somewhere Thursday night to a place, and there was people there that were smoking, and I thought, they still smelled good to me at that point.
Okay.
They still, even though I wasn't craving them like I was, but they still was like, if you're around somebody who smokes, which I hadn't been all week because I was out working on a job, nobody was around me, didn't see anybody. I wasn't around them, so this was the first time I'd actually been close to somebody who was smoking. I was like, wow, boy, that smells good.
Oh.
That smelled good. So finally, I kicked around there a little while, and I finally said, do you mind if I have one of those? And he said, no. Back in those days, that was, smoker. If you were out of cigarettes, everybody had compassion for you because they knew how bad you were hurt.
Pass them around. Yeah.
Here, I don't want you to suffer. Here's you one to, tide you through. So the guy gives me one. And I put it in my mouth, didn't even look at it, just lit it, took a big taste off of it, and I was like, oh, this is terrible.
It smelled good, but it didn't taste good.
Tasted, I mean, it wouldn't have been any different if I'd have been licked the inside of an exhaust pipe of a diesel
Wow.
bulldozer. I mean, it had that.
That's drastic.
Yeah, that chemically tar, rubbery, just terrible. And I was like, oh, and I put it out. I said, oh my word. I said, what kind of cigarette do you smoke? And he said, I just got these. They're Winston Lights. That was the brand that I smoked for all those years.
Oh, so.
And suddenly I said, well, there's something, they throw that, their cigarettes are fine. I was like, no, they ain't.
Something's changed. Wow.
So that at that point I was like, wow, boy, they really do taste bad. They really do affect your taste sense. Didn't think no more about it. Went on that night. Of course, Thursday I get up and I go to work, and I went to a local lumber yard. Used to be called Moore's. It's 84 Lumber now, but that's where I used to do a lot of when I'd buy material. And I went in, and I was getting some material, and I also had to go up and talk to the account manager. Nice lady. She was really friendly. Got along with her. Been in her office dozens and dozens of times. Never had a problem. I go walking in her office, and I walk in, and the smell about knocks me down. She was a chain smoker.
Smoke everywhere then.
Oh yeah. And I never realized it because I smoked, so I didn't smell.
And you've been in there many times before.
Oh yeah. And I was trying to talk to her, and my eyes were watering, and the smell was just. And I finally just couldn't stand it anymore. I said, we don't really need to take care of this now. I'll come back next day or two. She said, oh yeah, anytime. Oh, good to see you. And she's wanting to talk, and I'm just like backing away.
To get out of there?
Yeah, I was like, I gotta have air. I gotta have fresh air.
Wow.
So I backed down there, and I was like, wow. And on the way to work, I was thinking about it, and I thought, oh no, I smell like that.
Oh, so you saw yourself in what you were experiencing. You're seeing now on the other side of it.
Because I smoke cigarettes, and if I smell it that much on her, then people have to be able to smell it on me. Oh no.
Wow. So light bulb coming on, realization.
Well, it's a realization that maybe it doesn't smell as good as I thought it did. Just the night, Wednesday night, when I smelled it, I thought, oh, it smells so good. Mm-hmm. Now Thursday.
So it doesn't taste good. Now it no longer smells good.
Not so much. Now it's something's up here. These things just aren't as good for me as you think. So as it went on, that was Thursday. Friday, I actually forgot to put the patch on when I left that morning. And I went all the way to lunch and realized, oh, I forgot the patch. And I was going home for lunch anyhow. So I got it and I put it on, wore it till 8 o'clock that night before I took a shower to go to bed. Saturday, got up, forgot to put the patch on, worked around the house all day in the yard, didn't think nothing about it. All the way till about 4 o'clock when went in to get ready to go out to dinner, the Saturday night go out to dinner thing.
Yes.
Which was the thing we'd always did. Took a shower and I was like, oh, I gotta get my patch on. I'm fixing to go out to dinner. One of the favorite things I loved to do was go out to dinner, sit and have your coffee and a cigarette.
And a cigarette, okay?
Yeah,
yes.
So I put the patch on. We went out to dinner, had a great time, stopped, got a few groceries like I always did, come home. And we were gone maybe 2 hours. And I walked in and I looked and I'm like, I'm wearing this thing for 2 hours.
So you went all day long, fine.
Yeah.
2 hours at the end of the day and you're like, man, I made it that far, right? So
yeah, why continue? This is crazy.
Wow.
And knowing that, the box they gave me was a prescription for a week.
Oh, okay.
So I'm down to like 1 or 2 patches left. And remember what they cost.
You're not wanting
going back there.
Not wanting to do that again.
No. Even though I had saved $1 a day, and that was the other thing I realized as the week went on, suddenly I had money in my pocket.
Starting to see some benefits to this.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, I didn't spend that, I didn't break that 10, which when it breaks down to a 5, and then once it's broke, it's gone. Today, it's what you break 100, it's gone. That was a realization like, oh, so that Sunday I got up and I said, I'm not wearing a patch anymore. And I told my family at the time, I said, you know what? I hadn't planned on quitting smoking, but if I quit smoking, I think I deserve to get myself something really special, something different. And of course,
Celebrate?
yeah, the family agreed. And that decision almost killed me, though.
Okay.
Yeah, that was probably not the wisest, but it was a lot of fun. I took the money I saved over time, and when I was approached probably maybe 6 months or a year later, and bought a hang glider and learned how to hang glide.
Hang glider.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. So I traded the addiction of nicotine for adrenaline.
Adrenaline? Oh, man. Well, you've had to kind of pace yourself a little bit, even with that one now. So,
Yeah, the hang gliding thing, of course, I started at a time when it was just really developing. So we were all semi-pioneers going into that.
Neat.
And it was, we made a lot of mistakes. And when you made a mistake, you felt it.
Yes.
I mean, I still feel it today, some of those mistakes.
Wow.
But I got to tell you, there's nothing any greater than to be free to launch off a cliff and be out in midair, away from everything, free as a bird.
Wow.
Look around and see a big red-tailed hawk right beside you, circling in the same thermal you are.
You know, Clay, that seems like a metaphor for living an unchained life from your addictions of smoking as well. That seems like a transition of an amazing metaphor there, I think.
It really is, because I didn't even realize I was in chain. I didn't realize that that cigarettes were robbing money out of my pocket a little bit every day. And even though it wasn't maybe back then $1 a day, I think it just turned to $1 a pack, it adds up. And it adds up to the point to where it pushes you down a fork in the road that you can't come back from.
Oh, wow.
That when you get to those forks in the road, even though you think it's not a big decision, those always are.
Wow, that's powerful. I love the metaphor of that freedom, and then seeing the benefits of that. And for you, that week seemed from taste to smell, everything seemed to just flip-flop and turn. And it sounds like one of the tools was the science of the day, the medicine of the day, the helping of the day, that there's tools that we can use to help us in these chains, these addictions.
Sure.
What else would you say is a key point for you that we could give hope to somebody if
Here's the thing, and this is something that I thought my smoking was just about me. It's all about me, you know. It's my right to smoke. It's what I've done. But because I quit smoking, because I took that money and learned how to hang glide, I went on to get my pilot's license and learn to fly. I went on to teach my 2 kids, my oldest 2 boys, to fly. They were the youngest hang glider pilots and will always be in the United States at 13 years old.
Wow.
How it affected their life, learning to fly and be involved in air. Now they fly the C-17 for the Air Force and fly all over the world. That's what they do during the weekends, and then on the weeks they also plan the missions for the C-17 crew out of Charlotte for other shots. So
amazing.
They work together in a place they would have never worked together or been able to work together doing something they love so much if I hadn't have broke that chain way back when they were just little bitty.
Wow, what future could be awaiting us if we...
well, not just us, but our family.
And our families, the people around us.
How it affects what you think is, well, there's no connection there. There's always connections everywhere.
Wow. And we want those positive connections in our lives.
Sure.
Well, I think that's a great transition here. I appreciate those principles and your testimony, Clay, for sharing us. And I think at this time, as we listen more from his own experience, Richie Halversen, and his own chains, a life of freedom to being unchained. We're going to watch his video at this time, Breaking the Chain of More of the Same. And let's listen to his principles tonight.
Welcome to Unchained, Hope and Healing from Addiction. You know, it's not easy to break the chains that hold us back. It doesn't happen overnight. But if we work it, it works. That's a saying that I would often hear in the program. Keep coming back. It works if we work it. So far in our series, we've seen how each of us have chains that hold us back, something keeping you from living life to its fullest. The same power and principles that broke through my chain of opioid addiction can break through yours. Whatever is holding you back. But we've got to break through the denial and get honest. We got to get real. We've got to say, you know what, I need help. We also have to believe that help is possible, because without hope, a miracle cannot happen. We've got to be open-minded. We've got to believe there is something bigger, stronger than us that can. Step 1, I can't. Step 2, he can. Step 3, I'll let him. Now that we have a hope that a miracle can happen, it's time to step out in faith. People have asked me, what is the difference between belief and faith? So we learned about belief last time. So if I move to a town and a friend of mine tells me a good mechanic and I go to them and I say, hey, I'd like this to get fixed, I believe, because of what my friend told me, that I can take my car to this mechanic and he'll do a good job. However, if I take my car to him and he does do a good job, the next time I bring it back, then it's not belief or hope, it's faith. I know that he's going to do a good job. Now that we have hope, a miracle can happen. It's time to step out in faith. Faith is the manifestation of belief and trust in God. James 2:20 says faith apart from works is useless. It doesn't do us any good. James 2:26, as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. James 2:18 in the Message, faith and works fits together hand in glove. James 2:14, what good is it if you say you have faith but don't show it? Can that kind of faith save anyone? So if you want to live an unchained life, you have to start living what you say you believe. That's what faith is. We have an excellent example of faith in the 5th chapter of John. So we've looked at the 3rd chapter, we've looked at the 4th chapter, and now we're going to look at the 5th chapter. In the 5th chapter, we have this guy, and he's laying by a pool. John 5:2-6. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool in Aramaic called Bethesda, which has 5 roofed colonnades. In these lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there in a long time, he said to him, do you want to be healed? Now at first it seems like a pretty stupid question. Do I want to be healed? Well, what do you think? Verse 5 says he had been there in the same sick state for 38 years. I wonder, how many years have you been in the same state that you're in right now? How many years are you going to just feel drowned by the debt? How many years are you going to feel chained by circumstance and problems? How many years are you going to be chained to a dysfunctional and toxic relationship? For 38 years, this man has been coming to the pool only to leave the same way he showed up. How many seminars are you going to go to on anger and still leave the same way you showed up? How many classes on forgiveness do we have to go to finally have a breakthrough? Now, some translations say, do you want to be healed? Others say, do you want to be well? But my favorite says, do you want to be whole? The Greek word isn't just talking physical, it's talking spiritual, it's talking emotional. We are physical, emotional, mental, spiritual beings. And whenever one of those elements are out of whack, we don't feel the fullest, we don't live to the fullest of our potential. Man, God's number one goal for us has always been wholeness. Which is why when you ask God for help, I've noticed something. He'll always go deeper than you really want him to go. At first, I just wanted some help with a drug problem. But then he kept digging and digging because, you see, the drugs were only a symptom of a much bigger, deeper problem. Just being drug-free won't give you wholeness. Have you ever heard of the term a dry drunk? A dry drunk, they're just as miserable and mean as before. They're just without drinking. In fact, most of the time, a dry drunk is so miserable to be around, the people that live with them wish they would go back to drinking. Anything short of wholeness isn't enough. You see, until you feel completely unchained, you'll never feel and experience life to its fullest potential. And so in verse 3, it says there were a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. Just as there was a variety of problems at this pool, there are a variety of problems that all of us are facing in our lives. Some of us have money problems. Some of us have marital problems. Some of us have health problems. Some of us have job problems. Some of us have drug problems. Some of us have eating disorders. Some of us have bad attitude problems. And like this broken man, what we often do is we look at a pool and we think, if I could just get that, everything would work out. If I could just get the degree, everything would work out. If I could just get more money, everything could work out. If I could just get married, everything would work out. If I could just get unmarried, everything would work out. But those things won't give you wholeness. Jesus asked, do you want to be whole? Not, do you want to get married? Not, do you want to be rich? Because to give you those things wouldn't be nice. It would be torture, because then you would believe that those things can give you wholeness, that they can make you happy, and they can't. Do you want to be whole? And the sick man answered, well, I have no one to put me into the pool. That's the wrong answer. The pool won't give you wholeness. Popularity won't give you wholeness. Pay raise won't give you wholeness. A good waistline won't give you wholeness. A new spouse won't give you wholeness. Only an experience with something bigger, better, and more powerful than that stuff will give you wholeness. You see, the legend of this story and the legend during this time was that if you got in the water at just the right time, when it moved, that you would be healed. But you know what? You would think that at some point over 38 years, this guy would have realized, you know what? I don't think it works. I've been here for 38 years, and I've never seen anybody healed by this pool. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. How many times do you have to go to the dope to realize that the dope doesn't work? How many times do you got to go to that website to realize, you know what? It's not worth the shame that I'm going to feel. How many times are you going to realize that the worrying never works, money never works, arguing never works, complaining never works? But this is the thing, God is offering something that works right now. Like with the paralytic, Jesus is asking each of us, do you want to be whole? The English Standard Version calls them invalids. The King James Version calls them impotent. It's a word that means ineffectual, inadequate, useless. In a Greek word, it means weak, sickly. But you know what? Think of some of the amazing people in history that have had disabilities. Helen Keller and Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles. You've got so many different people that didn't allow their disability to define them or their circumstance to stop them. And so there's got to be more than physical disability here. You see, I believe the greatest obstacle to their wholeness, to being unchained, wasn't physical, but it was spiritual. It was emotional. It was a lack of faith. It wasn't a lack of their health. It was a lack of their belief, their faith. And the sick man answered, sir, I have no one to put me into the pool, and the water is stirred up, and while I'm going, another steps down before me. And you see, he's blaming other people for his current situation. It's always easier to blame someone else for what's wrong with you, but you've got to take responsibility for your own life. You can't blame anyone else. No one is getting between you and wholeness but you. We can't blame anyone else for our chains. And look, we may not be responsible for everything that happens to us in life, but we are responsible with how we respond with what happens to us in life. And so here we have Jesus, this miracle worker, the resurrection in life. He's touched people and healed them. The blind see, the disabled walk, the mute can talk, the deaf can hear. He's standing right in front of this guy asking, do you want to be whole? And this guy brings up a pool. He's looking past Jesus. Hey, Jesus, could you move over? I need to keep an eye on the pool and make sure nobody gets in there before me. You see, his faith is weak, not his legs. His faith, not his legs, are what's coming between him and wholeness. He's so focused on his present dilemma, he can't see the solution staring at him in his face. In John 5:6, I love it. It says, Jesus already knew that he had been there for a long time. You see, your marriage needs help. God already knows. Your body needs healing. God already knows. You have a spending problem. God already knows. He knows how long you've been where you are, and he knows how long you've been going through what you're going through. Even when we don't know what to do, God already knows. Do you want to be whole? And the sick man answered, Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool. Jesus just cuts him off and he gets to the point. Get up, take up your bed, and walk. You see, the principle of faith is the getting up. You have to get up. This guy wasn't healed until he got up. Information alone won't lead to transformation. You can go to seminar after seminar. You can go through this whole series. Information alone won't lead to transformation. Information plus participation, that equals transformation. You've got to participate in the unchaining experience. You've got to participate in this process. It works if and only if we work it. Faith is living what you have learned. It's putting your life in God's hands and trusting him. If it works when you work it. The moment the paralytic practiced what he heard, the chain of paralyzation was broken in his life. Someone who's been stuck for 38 years is moving. The question to you is, will you trust him enough to just get up right now? Maybe you don't know what you believe. Maybe you don't even know if there is a God. Will you just give it a chance? Would you just give it a try to see if there's something to it? Ephesians 2:4-6 says, But God, being rich in mercy because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved. And check this out, verse 6, and raised us up with him. Get up. And seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus. I don't know about you, but I want to raise up today. This message is for people who are ready to rise up. This series are for people who are done rolling over and giving up. Stop letting your addiction chain you. Stop letting the past paralyze you. Stop letting haters get inside your head. Do you want to be whole? At the end of this scene in John 5:8, it says that the Jews were seeking all the more to kill Jesus. When Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead in John 11:53, it says from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. So think about this. Every miracle Jesus performed was a death sentence for Jesus. He knew what healing this man would cost. He knew that to make this man's legs move meant that his own legs would need to be nailed to a cross and could not move. For this man to be able to pick up his bed and walk, he would have to pick up his cross and walk. The only way to give wholeness was if he went into the grave and died. To break your chains, Christ's body was broken. That's how much God loves you. Listen, no one else has ever done that for you. No one has ever done what God has done for you. So why not trust him when he says, get up? Why don't you give him a chance? Do you want to live an unchained life? Do you want to be whole? The question is coming through to each of us right now. And there's only one real good answer. Yes, I want wholeness. Well, then you got to get up. You got to make the decision right now to get up. What you've been doing hasn't worked. So why not try something new?
Powerful. Thank you so much again, Richie, for sharing these messages with us from night to night. And I love what he's saying. The process works if we work that process. We've been learning over these last few nights to get honest and to get real, to be truthful about our problem, and then to believe that there is help. I can't, he can, and so I think I'm going to let him. I love that. And tonight we're being invited to step out in faith, a belief and trust in God, faith being living up to what we have learned. And that question for each of us, are we ready? Like that man who was in that condition for 38 years, are we ready to rise up? And do each one of us want to be whole? Tonight we can give God that chance. We can choose to get up, make that decision to try something new, exercise the power of choice that God has given to each one of us. If you have questions from tonight's presentation, or had a few that have come in even for you, Clay, from yours, you can keep writing those questions. Or maybe you're thinking of this man who's been in his condition for 38 years, and maybe you can share tonight in the comments there, and we can pray for you how long it's been for you in this condition, this chain that you long to be free from. And we'll be sure to lift you up in prayer as well. This question came in for you, Clay. Is it possible to break the chains of addiction without religion, without Christianity, or without belief in Jesus? Is that possible? What would you say?
Well, I would say, I would think it could be possible, but I don't know why you would want to do it the hard way.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, even the Army knows bring in the big guns when you want the big guns. When you need help, why turn away from God? Turn to God.
I love that. So that power that's beyond ourselves, He is that power. Bring in the big guns
Sure.
to help us with that problem. Excellent, excellent. Any other principles that have been helpful for you in your life that would bless those who may be in this chain or a similar chain and wanting to experience a freedom or a next step or another possible? What little hope can you give them, an extra nugget you can share with them tonight?
Well, I have to say, I would just notice that the whole thing of chain goes from chain to flying, just like we were talking.
Just like your metaphor. That's right.
Right here, right behind me.
It freed you up to fly.
Right,
and God's wanting to do that in their life as well. I love that.
You know, one of the things that, of course, the worst person to criticize people who smoke is a person who quit smoking. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm one of those people. Just because I know how I went from chain to fly. One of the most important parts that I've talked to people about quitting smoking, and I bet I've made over 100 people through the last 30 years quit smoking, and I've done it really simply by asking them, if there was some way that I could take you in your present age and everything back to when you didn't smoke, and I offered you a cigarette, would you take it?
Knowing what you know now.
Know what you know now, being what you are now, who you are, your body, would you take that first cigarette? And not one time have I ever had somebody say, well, of course I would. Everybody says, oh no, I would never.
If they had that chance to go back or offered it again, this time they would say no.
I would never wrap that chain around my neck again.
Wow.
Because they know better. Your brain knows better. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a problem because those cigarettes were motivating me to override what I have already proven is my brain knowing that I shouldn't smoke. Somehow that's overriding that. And I truly believe that some of the chemicals they put in it speak to different parts of our bodies. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Go without eating for about 4 days. Your stomach will talk to your brain and it will tell you how to get the car keys and take me to McDonald's. It will motivate you. It has these, what I call feelings or levers that your body uses to motivate your brain to do that. So if your brain knows better, then you've got to stop being manipulated by the parts of your body. I think the cigarettes companies have learned how to manipulate parts of our bodies, either our heart, what we love, or our stomach or something, to make us crave that and to make us use those feeling levers to make our brain go and buy those things. Because, man, I think they're like $4 or $5 a pack now. And that could be just a huge expense in a short time.
Wow. So realizing that power of getting back in the driver's seat a little bit, choosing that if I could do it over again, I would say no, and kind of using that as a springboard and a base to say, we'll start right there right now. You know, let's
okay, Lord, I'm being manipulated. I am being something is using these levers to manipulate parts of my body that isn't logical, that doesn't think smart. It's just reacting to the chemicals. I need help to stop that, to break those chains of levers so that I can get over this. And the thing about it is people who stop smoking realize that every day that they quit, it gets a little easier. The patch helped me because it immediately break those levers of feeling that I wanted. But even if you quit cold turkey with nothing, you can do it. You just got to realize that you're being manipulated.
No longer in control.
Yeah,
Somebody
else is playing with you, and they're taking money out of your pocket to do it. They're not paying you to do it. They're taking your money to do it.
Yes. So let's say someone here tonight's listening and saying, okay, I want to break this chain. I want to make this choice. I want to start. You've also had some spiritual principles that have helped you in your life too. What's been a key thing for you to think and reflect on that spiritually has helped you as well?
Well, one of the saddest parts of the Bible is knowing that Judas turned Jesus over to the Philistines, the Pharisees.
Pharisees.
To start the process of his crucifixion. I think once he realized what he had really done, what his plan was, and what actually happened was different, it put him in a huge depression. He literally wrapped the chain around him of depression, so much that he threw the silver away, basically bought a potter's field of cut hard pottery, and then committed suicide. He literally crucified himself. And if he would only had just waited and had faith, waited the 2 days after that, he would have seen Jesus' resurrection and realized that he would have been forgiven and had a second chance.
God's grace is sufficient. And I think of what Pastor Richie shared with us earlier, that don't stop 5 minutes in front of the miracle that's about to happen. If he would have just waited, just as Jesus looked at Peter with those forgiving eyes, if Judas would only have believed and trusted that. So I hope each one of us can trust in that amazing forgiveness and grace, and don't stop short, 5 minutes short of that miracle that God has for each and every one of us. Thank you so much for being with us here, Clay. You have, I know Clay has been the most open and ready all this week, and I just appreciate your availability tonight as well and your willingness to share that story. So whether it's tools like a patch, whether it's the power of choice and not choosing not to be manipulated anymore, or this belief and trust in that grace and that power and the big guns of God's grace and power and strength in our life, I pray each one of us can take these principles and apply them to our lives. Take that next step to believe and to trust and know that God has something for us. I've promised each night for those who have registered that we would have a drawing, and we have our winner for tonight as well that has registered on relevantseminars.org/Candler. And tonight's winner is Dana D'Angelo. Dana D'Angelo. So I invite you to take a moment in the comment section there and let's congratulate Dana. You are our winner this evening. So look this coming week for Richie Halversen's book, Darkness Will Not Overcome. You should be receiving it in the mail this week. Invite everyone to join us again. If you were blessed by tonight's presentation and by Clay's principles and testimony that he shared, just write something there in the comments that was a blessing for you to hold on to in your life. Don't forget to like the video and to share this with someone else who may be blessed by it. And I invite you to come back tomorrow evening for another message from Pastor Richie entitled Breaking the Chain of Fear. The Chain of Fear. And we'll also, Lord willing, have another person here, as Clay did tonight, sharing with us of their story of how they went from being chained to unchained to flying free. And I love that analogy in your own life, that literally, that chain of smoking being opened up to allow you to fly in a real sense, but also to fly more free in your life in every other sense as well. So powerful. I love that. I hope we each can keep that metaphor in our hearts and have hope for each one of us. I know from your responses that these topics have meant so much to you, even getting a text this afternoon, a message just saying that these messages have even brought tears to their eyes. So maybe there's someone here tonight who does not have hope, and these presentations, these testimonies are providing you that hope is there for you as well. God is able. So I invite you to join us back again tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock. We'll be right back here, another testimony and another message from Pastor Richie. Blessings to each one of you. Have a great night, and thank you for being here.